I have got some code implementing something elsewhere, which I realise is very vague, but that's how I roll. I want to get into fortresscraft evolved. So the 3 areas I would like to look at today: major performance improvement to 2020 mode, brand new way of doing landscapes, new way of doing clouds. And there's something called code rot, and it's really weirdly true. So if you leave a program that works and you come back to it, it doesn't work anymore. It worked when I left it. It doesn't actually. It's something external has changed more what it is. Okay, so this is actually new code, the populating system. Now let's start by getting the game to work. So what broke there was the new linked OR extractors. I really wish I got a date when you created a thing in Unity. This is a bit old, very, very, very old. But I was a fool and I used the wrong type of initialization for me. You know if it's any good when you come back the next day and it's good. It's good. You come back the next day and it's not good. Your first impression is nah, then it's nah. Here I'm coming back going, oh cool. I'm very interested to do the far field rendering, also speed up the introspection system. I have a bunch of things I want to do. One of them is gen time. Seg last gen time. I don't know if I believe that for a number of reasons, but let's have a look. Recently, I did a very clever optimization to it, sped it up, and I was like, oh wow, that's a lot faster. But the timings that I'm getting here are nowhere near. So I was getting 0.2 milliseconds, which is actually acceptable. Previously, I was getting 12 milliseconds, which isn't. And that's odd. No, wait, that can't be right. I can't believe this is 10 times faster than the code that I rewrite that doesn't do any of this extra stuff. Wait, no, hold on, that doesn't make any sense. My god, this is a bad function. Oh god. I haven't been in this code base in a while. I'm trying to remember my way around. I have been rewriting this. Well, that means my brain is kind of full of the rewrite. This stuff all pre-generates the flag stuff, so we don't need it at gen time, which is a pity because that was one of the things I was going to speed up. But this will absolutely speed up the Perlin gen, which is very good. This was slow. This is lots of subchecks. And that just returns the cached version, and then we'll just generate this cache. Easy money. Instead of calling 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 subcalls, I've cached it all. Just how much memory I've just burned. That's just allocated 4 gigabytes of RAM. I've never really stopped on fortresscraft. I love it, so I just haven't really been streaming it. Again, I wish that I was a big streamer and I could get a guy to just edit my video down to stuff. I have been doing a stream every evening. I'll probably repeat like 20 times a day. Everyone is always welcome to come and join into the gaming stream in the evening. A lot of that is to stop me getting up at 9, working through till 3 in the morning. It means at 6, I stop, go and have something to eat, I try and watch a bit of television, come back at 9, play some games, chat with people. That is partly there to keep me sane, and it's partly there to entertain people, but I am always there for people to come and ask me questions. If you had been following, I have been working on another game. Yeah, I've been working for the man. Can't talk about it too much yet. Some of the technology from that game will come back into Fortresscraft too. I'm not going to spend too much time solving difficult issues. I can clip it off here. That's fine. That is only 10k times 65535 is 4 gigabytes. Slash 124 is 4 gigabytes of RAM. If I clip off at 1200, that's a lot less. I'm glad I checked, or I would have hit play and it would have just died on me. That limits the Fortresscraft to a mere 2,000 blocks, which incidentally is way more than I can actually render. Other things that aren't going to happen yet. Dynamic Atlas generation. I have it working. It now uses compute shaders. It uses Atlas arrays. It's great. I'm so happy. And it means that mod authors can mod individual textures easily. It means that we can drop in very high resolution textures easily. I'm very happy with that one. I'm just going to make a note for myself. Look at correctly generating facets at load time and or pull it from the server. Approx 10x faster. FC2 is, what was it, 0.36 ms versus 12 ms after optimizing. Anyway, we are also feeding up Perlin generating, so you can't complain there. It's been so long since so this isn't even code that I'm rusty on. This is code I've not looked at in 4 or 5 years. I'm going right back to the very lowest level of code for Fortresscraft. I have been a very busy man, unfortunately, on other projects, so I haven't been streaming. I used to stream an awful lot of development of fortresscraft. I apologise for not doing so much. One of the slow calls, so every facet we call, it caches the neighbour data. Is I didn't need to, and that was the slow part. I cached just the relative cubes, because I didn't need the diagonal ones. I'm a bit scared of going into these functions, because these actually calculate stuff way back from fortresscraft on the Xbox. This calculates how much lava there is, stuff like this. I'll leave a comment. Without vertex AO, we can get away with only caching the adjacent cubes and skip the diagonals. Forgot, we've actually got pressurized fluid. Not used it, and I've not sorted out rendering yet. But it'll be cool. Well, I've sped up world generation, so that's cool. Not what I meant to do, but you know, there's so much work to do in fortresscraft. One of the things I want to do before we get to the point of art is a solid technical base. So this population system, I am curious to have a look at. I think I know how to optimize it. I hate loading in games so much. Well, I've actually not 10% off the generation time there, but I have sped up the purlin time greatly. I was actually expecting to get more out of that though. Not that the generation time is slow. It's important when you are optimizing stuff to always optimize the most important stuff. I am also going to do some aesthetic passes on the game as time goes on. Clouds being one of them. I have a good cloud system and I am so excited to get into fortresscraft, and I don't have to do it today. If you are a patron and you want me to do more of these dev streams, let me know. If you're not a patron and you want me to do more of the dev streams, you're going to need to become a patron and then tell me that you want. So as you can see though, we have the long distance landscape. I am in fabulous mode, not 2020. Hoping to get done today is to improve the performance time of that. As you go up quality levels, it gets exponentially worse with doing anything. You saw how long it takes to populate, but that's one of the important things to change. I solved it AN other project. I won't be copying the code across. I wish it was that simple. Have also sped up the purlin time. It's actually generating the world a bunch quicker than it was before. I am always been quite pleased with fortresscraft's world generation speed. Part of the reason it's so quick to generate, it pre-generates all of the visibility, whereas you can see on this one, visibility is not regenerated in any way, shape or form. I've now outrun the generation, and that's something I want to fix. And part of that is the selection speed. And this is important. If you want to learn to program, it's one of the important things. Commit early, commit often. So I'm going to commit what I've just done. If I could just remember what bloody fortresscraft, what folder I put it in. Fix dirt with ore extractors. It's also very handy because that means when I come to do release, I can just copy paste all my commands. Huge performance improvement in purlin gen with regard to facets. What I'm about to do is I'm about to implement priority queues. I didn't know they existed until I came up with a system that didn't quite work with concurrent queues, and I was like, oh, that's so annoying. I wish I could. And then I came across these concurrent queues and I implemented them and went, oh wow, these are great. And I was going to take them across from the new project into fortresscraft, and I just noticed I've already got the bloody things. So that's annoying too, because I could have done what I'm about to do. I could have done at any point in the last 10 years. The difference is I didn't know it existed. I will take these ones because there's a chance they've been updated. But yeah, the priority queues allow me to have a queue, and I can also kind of insert it at the beginning or kind of insert it at the end. Kinda. Sometimes I type something into the search box and it goes, oh, that looks like a regular expression. Let's turn regular expressions on. It's like, no. Where do I populate everything? There's a point during startup where I select and populate the segments. I really wish in this search thing it gave me the calling function. I tried to start a world script or world frustum. So this is on the startup. We have to load everything in. What these are called Manhattan spheres. And what they do is, oh man, look, I've already done this but in a different way. Anyway, so a lot of the places in the game, and I mean a lot, we do Manhattan spheres. And what we do is we do a growing sphere over all the segments, and then we look at all of the data of all of the segments, and then we make a decision. So we do a lot of work, and then we come up with, this is the best segment to do. And we chuck away all the work, and then we come back in, and then we go, right, what's the best segment? And it occurred to me, if you've just generated a segment and you've just gone through 1,000 of them and you've got the best one and you get rid of the best one, the next one is the second best one is probably the next one you want to do. And then once you've got rid of the first two, the next one is probably the one you want to do. And so on and so on and so on. Now, a lot of this stuff is based on time. So fortresscraft takes, I haven't timed it, but let's say 30 minutes to generate the start area around you. That's 1 million segments it needs to generate to do that. This is a lot of work. That data would get old. So what I do is I just have another thread repopulating that priority queue, re-updating that priority queue. Let's say it takes 1 second to update the priority queue. In that 1 second, I can pull out 1,000 pieces of data, do a very quick processing on them. I'm just looking at this code because I said I don't need to do Manhattan spheres, and then I went do Manhattan spheres. A lot of it is the select segment for generation. I would also like to massively parallelize the Perlin generation, but I'm not sure that's going to be... that's probably not a one-day thing. Okay, so somewhere in the log file, some part I also need to tidy up fortresscraft's logging, because I did over 1,000 of... a lot of it, just Unity saying there are too many audio listeners. I hate that. Cope with it. Don't just tell me to not do it wrong. I noticed rather amusingly, this appears to be the log file for a different game. Run again, and then hopefully I can actually see how long it takes, because it says it takes this long. Now, those Manhattan spheres are a lot of what the issue is with going from Fabulous to 2020. When you go to 2020, you have the issue that those searches get exponentially longer and longer and longer. So that's why I pre-cache them. Why I plan to pre-cache them. I've just seen a window in Unity I've never seen before, and I was like, what's it do? Nothing, apparently. Oh man, this is an old version. There's a console. Oh yes, it doesn't like me to have multiple consoles open. Okay. Oh, I know. Oh, the amount of people going, Unity, could you stop always putting in intermediary stuff? It's terrible, isn't it? It's properly atrocious. Don't really know why they've never improved it. It's so awful. I don't need to see that, all this. At this point, strip it. And people have been complaining about this for 10 years, and you've gone, Anyway, so it takes about 8 seconds to populate. And to my mind, that's too long. That's definitely too long. Unfortunately, my easy peasy fix is unlikely to apply here. But there's no errors in here. Profiling it is a pain. So I'm not going to do this because this gets out the realms of a change I can do in a day and go, look at me, everyone. I'm brilliant. This is something where I might break it and be right for 3 days. Can we speed this up by populating in series on multiple threads? So what we could do is split the world into layers of 16 or stripes of 16, run 16 threads and do this on 16 threads. 0.2 milliseconds, yeah. 20 milliseconds I can optimize. 0.2 milliseconds, yeah, maybe not. Maybe not. Don't worry though. The landscape system, that's going to be brilliant. I'm so ready to drop that one in. 8 seconds is too long. I hate loading. Sometimes I've worked on AAA games that took you several minutes to get in the game. 8 seconds annoys me, but yeah, it's not too bad. If I have to wait 2 minutes to get into the game, and then I realise I've made a mistake, I have to close it, compile it, go back in. That's 4 minutes I've just wasted. We're only 60 minutes in an hour. I've just wasted almost 10% of an hour because our loading time is so bad. Now bear in mind, we have got some cool stuff coming, yeah? So that's rendering the whole landscape to a 1 meter accuracy, believe it or not. I have an improvement to that too. It's showing the hive minds, and it's showing the overminds. Hopefully, that alone will mean that a lot of the stuff out on the surface is a bit less of a surprise. Right from the get-go, you go, there's me, there's my base, what's all that? I think I can actually do this quite easily, and some of the stuff that gets slow in 2020 mode won't be slow. I call this Manhattan search in a number of places, and I believe I always use the phrase best segment. But fundamentally, you know, due to spending time looking at this level of code base in the other project, I came up with a vastly improved way of doing things. Mostly because I didn't think of it when I wrote it. No one else thought of it, but now we have. So all of these Manhattan spheres all use the same system. Now in that case, I'm actually storing total time. No, okay, that's just bollocks. Looking at this code, it's interesting. So this will be very, very quick to start with, and then it will get slower and slower and slower. So this is where spending the time pre-caching the load order, but continually updating it will be good. I'm not so concerned about save, but a little bit. So saving does impact on loading, because you can't load and save at the same time. There's two methods, one of which give you int milliseconds, one of which give you long milliseconds. Milliseconds is an int, total milliseconds is a double. Go figure. That'll give me the average load time, and that includes seeking and loading, and that's the one that I kind of care about. But yeah, I'm very keen that the 2020 mode gets a bit faster. The time it takes to find your first segment is also the time it takes to find the first 1,000 segments. We are talking genuinely 1,000 times more. I think it's 4. It's an old version of .NET because they need a version of .NET that's obviously supported by all the platforms. Now the average is, oh wow, that is much higher than I had anticipated. 5+ milliseconds, okay. It's good to know, not very useful though. It's the Perlin generation and the mesh generation ones that are important. Because with those, to a great degree, it doesn't matter if I choose the wrong one. The disk segment stuff, possibly. The disk segment stuff, it's actually quite cheap. Let me run that again and leave it run for a second. And I'll pay attention to the debate, because it starts cheap and gets more expensive. So it starts at you, it starts at the player. As it gets away from you, it needs to look further and further and further and further. Oh man, is it quick though. Forgot how damn quick fortresscraft can be. Yeah, so it's now taking 3 milliseconds. People complain about 2020 mode because if you've got a 3080 and a CPU released this year, then you don't have to complain. But if you've got a PC from last year, no. So now it's up to 4 or 5 milliseconds. So hopefully the landscape system that I have written will just drop in. That's actually done a superlative job. But now we're getting spikes up to, well, 23 there. I have to say, to a great degree, I'm actually quite impressed how quick this is going. It's only half loaded though, so that must be borne in mind. Now it's gone up from 1 to 2 milliseconds to hovering around 6 to 8. Now if I were to put it in 2020 mode, well, probably it would crash. Unity doesn't really like allocating that much RAM. But that number gets much worse. Also, this is an empty world. I should probably have borne that line. This is a very empty world. It does say this is essentially free, yay. So I will believe Past Adam. I believe that Past Adam wasn't lying. At some point, I will need to have a full world. Some of this stuff gets worse as we get a bigger and bigger world. Obviously, right now, I have pretty much an empty world. I do actually time this. I am actually timing all of this in its midterm, because it's very important. Ensure no long saving queues ever. It's public, by the way. One of people's first experiences of fortresscraft. So one of the people's first experience of fortresscraft is often, oh wow, this is cool. Oh, hold on a sec, I'm going to change something. They quit and going, why is this taking so long to exit? I know. And it's not a good first impression. I am aware, and I keep telling people it doesn't matter. You can just exit. It's just work to do. I'm probably going to be using Unity 2020. Upgrading from this version of Unity to a new version of Unity is a lot of work and not an exciting stream. The reason I'm doing this stream, to a degree, those things should be quite visually appealing. I've been writing a lot of code recently. It's just not fun to watch. It's just code. You don't go, wow, that looks brilliant at the end of it. The landscape, which I fully expect to get done today, will look cool. And the clouds, which I don't expect to get done today, will look very cool. I'm overall very impressed with the amount. So, you know, the game is constantly saving here. Now, I'll be honest, I don't know why we don't have the overminds. They should be rendering. So you notice the overminds are, they are known about, but they should be rendering. You have no idea, by the way, on the sheer amount of tech it is taking just to render this to the point where I can just fly around all willy-nilly. But yeah, I'm probably not using this system. Dynamic tessellation system to 1 meter accuracy, and it's cool, but I am not good enough to finish it. I am not that good at shaders. It is beyond my personal skill set to write this to a shipping level quality and have it run well. Looks cool. It looks wrong. So if I wander out the building, the lighting is not very good on it. And it doesn't really match up. And I have tried. I have spent a lot of time trying. This is what I can definitely offer. This is fabulous mode. I'm running it apparently 45 frames a second in editor on a high-end, high-detail world. But you can see there, in the distance, you can see where the world runs out. And that's something I would like to resolve. And I do have a system developed for the other game that means you shouldn't see that. I mean, it will load in. There you go. You see it's going, oh, wait, hold on. I'll load it. Hold on. Where's that? Yeah, there we go. I think marching cubes is a dead end. I've done so much work into marching cubes, and I can't find any system with marching cubes that lets you do what I need. So I need you to be able to place cubes in, you know, what's the button for it? F5 for marching cubes? There you go. Right, that looks cool and all. I put down a block of silver. It looks like that. So put down 2 blocks of silver, and it looks like this. It doesn't seem that anyone's ever solved this issue, because no one needs to. People go to triplanar mapping. I don't know anyone who has used marching cubes in a game and then used that to have essentially non-natural structures. It works great for rock. I plan to use marching cubes for hive minds, fluid, cryo, sand, that sort of stuff, but not for anything else. Essentially stuff where I don't need to worry about generating UVs. It does look cool. I do like it, and I would be very happy to ship with it. Can you build stuff like made of metal or whatever in 7 days to die? Right, because none of that is... so you're telling me that that building in the background is marching cubes? So you notice they're not blending between them. See, that I can do. Repeating textures like this, I can do. Yeah, so that's fine. That's easy. Blending it's fine. That's not marching cubes. That's cubes. Maybe there, maybe on that curve there. I've really struggled because marching cubes is a very, very simple, straightforward, widely understood and hugely documented system. Marching cubes with UVs on there, I can't find anything. I can't find anything at all about it. Because this is, so what this is a repeating texture, you see. And then that texture then blends in based on distance. That's fine because it's not discrete textures. That makes sense. And then these are blocks. I have considered marching cubes for the landscape and not for anything else. Geocontouring is what Astroneer uses. Try building a house in Astroneer. See how far you get. Or No Man's Sky. It's just, it will look like a collection of Play-Doh at best. So I have considered already allowing the landscape, and it works. And I could already ship that. And I already have support for cubes in different layers. Oh, I'm in editor. I think I just get constantly attacked. So I ensure that in editor, I'm always running under worst case scenario for optimization. Still not happy about that populating, but I'm not sure I can do anything about that right yet. Other than have all the code cope with it not done. Do you like the reflections? I like the reflections. Not sure I'm going to keep them, but I do like them. I implemented reflection probes for rooms. It does sound very dark. You can actually see it reflecting there. It's not perfect, but it's probably be fixed. But all the examples you've shown me have textures smoothly blending into other textures. That doesn't make any sense for reinforced rock coming out the ground. It doesn't blend smoothly, does it? It just insert itself. That's not how it works. So imagine that I'm blending it. Sure, then it would look kind of like 7 Days to Die. Ignore the... I gave up, you see, I gave up trying to fix all the UV issues. Do you think that ray tracing would look any different to that? It might update slightly smoother, but it won't look any different. This will be a high-end visual option. Man, guys, you're not getting any work done here. You're busy excited about all the things I've done. Which is fine. I'm excited too. No, I mean, ray tracing is easy to program. That's the thing. Ray tracing has always been easy to program. I started doing ray tracing in March 1990. I started to do ray tracing. It's very easy. It's a surprisingly easy technique. It genuinely is trivially easy, in fact. The difficult part is doing it quickly. On the other hand, is not so easy. You cast a ray, it hits something, it reflects, it refracts, it stops. That's it. There's literally nothing else for ray tracing to do. 3 things. Yeah, so we've also got all new rules on how conveyors work. Conveyors do not allow you to go willy-nilly. I thought, and apparently I remember wrongly, I thought I disallowed that. I thought only that was valid now, and that wasn't. The idea is if you want to come out like that, you would use a conveyor belt like that. This is not logical. This is not obvious. I want it to be like that because then the conveyor belt is connected directly away from the thing it attaches to. Oh, out of cheese. Man, I must have wrote that a long time ago. It's just to remind people I'm not dead. I am still here. I am still writing code. Because people saying, oh, it's not possible. The game will be unplayable. And I was sort of explaining, well, that's bollocks, quite frankly. Because stuff like loading out the top of a hopper, it just doesn't make any sense. Oh, hold on. Is it that that's disallowed? That might be the one that's now no longer valid. Nope, that's still valid. What the hell I did now? I think I may have just been talking about the disallowing. Yeah, because we're also talking about disallowing side loading. Now that has the issue that you then need a T-piece. We've been just sort of talking about the feasibility. Because this is the thing, I've had people on the Discord just going, oh no, you can't change that. Look, here are all the reasons why not. Like I've just gone, you know what? I'm just going to change it. There we go, taking it out, done. My decision is made. I spend a long time thinking about these things. I purposely make sure that I am exploring the options. I make sure that they make sense. I don't just jam it in and make my grand decision and then that's it. Everyone must bow down to my will. You know, I think stuff like this. This setup does make visual sense, but doesn't work. That one doesn't make visual sense, but does work. Makes no sense. That shouldn't work. That also shouldn't work. That shouldn't have pulled something from under the hopper. Even if I mean I need to make a specific machine, it's not clear. Left-hand one shouldn't do anything. Totally, the release date of fortresscraft has already been announced. Whether or not it will be an early access release or early access release is looking more and more likely. Yeah. So in this situation, I do not want this one to pull anything out. I don't want that one to work. I do want this one to work. Where you have a conveyor belt going past something, I don't want that one to happen. I'm trying to encourage corners. Corners look great. I just need to make sure they are as easy as possible for people. So again, although I have decided I want to make a major change to the game, I haven't just abstractly decided it. I have actually thought about it. Are there any other voxel-based factory building games? Sir, I don't know of any. What are the others? Whether or not you should be able to backload onto conveyors like that. And that looks rubbish, but does kind of make syntactic sense. If I don't have that, I then need to have a T-merger. I thought everybody had lost interest in Satisfactory already. I thought it was very pretty and very shallow, and I thought once it actually came out, everyone went, all right, cool, yeah. Totally just said, I'm now following the development of 3 voxel-based factory building games. I did see one, and it looked really cool. It looked really, really good. I was like, ooh, I like that. And then it turned to be single player only. I was like, oh, no. Fortresscraft, it doesn't promise much, but it delivers a lot. Satisfactory, on the other hand, promises a lot and delivers an awful lot less. This is very nice. This is very, very nice looking. I really like what they've done there. My goodness me, hold on. I saw this way ago. Once you get away from that beautiful opening shot, you're then down to... That looks really, really tedious. Build! Okay. Oh, God. One of the things I love about Satisfactory and Factorio and this game are the conveyor belts. They visually look so much better than Fortresscraft. The difference is I can do 100 times more of them because my belts are so simple. Yeah, that looks really good. That looks really awesome. Is that as big as you're showing in your demo build? I try very hard on Fortresscraft not to do this. This suffers from the same issue that Factorio suffers from, that I absolutely avoided on purpose. Factorio, and don't correct me, I don't care. Factorio has one type of factory, and it does everything. So every factory looks the same. It can make everything. Fortresscraft tends towards specialized machines. So that means this one. If you look, I don't know what these things here are. but they're all exactly the same. So this base, a bigger base, will look exactly the same. Whereas fortresscraft, all the machines animate and do stuff nicely, and they all look fairly unique. But yeah, that looks great. That looks great. Out now on itch. Wait, fucking hell. You want me to buy a game for $18 on itch? Are you serious? That's not a good screenshot to show off. About 5 segments across. About 80 meters. Honestly, stop copying Factorio's fucking power pole system. It was shit in Factorio. Don't do it. Fortresscraft ones I really like. In Factorio, in Mindustry. What's the other one we played? There's another one. The power pole system, it's just boring. It's just horrible. There's no interest or fun or challenge. It's just click, place one, click, place one, click, place one, done. Whereas in Fortresscraft 1, power distribution is a puzzle in of itself. But I will say, I do like the looks of that. If it was on Steam, I would probably play it on one of my streams. I'm curious what they've done. But that looks excellent. A very, very nice, clean style. I'm going to give that a 10 and a 2 for variety. And understandability. I mean, I look at this going, I can't tell what these machines are doing. I don't know if different belts are different colours. I assume they are at different speeds. Yeah, their draw distance is obviously just a bunch of arse. I wonder if they follow me on Twitter. Better do. Bastards. I tried wherever possible to have a messy look to the world. Like, I don't want it clean. I don't want it sterile. Theirs looks sterile. That's very good work. That does look clean and tidy and lovely. Really does. Fortresscraft is bitty and gritty and lighting and grass and plants and stuff moving around and moving things. It's if you've been in a factory, they're pretty horrible. Do you spend time making your workshop clean rather than working on cars? I'd say I'm not very happy with the performance right now. That's something that comes later. So where do we choose which segment to do next? So we do a bit of setup. We deal with the player segment first. So the player's doing something that gets priority. At that point, we go through and we look for other work to do. Now, part of the problem is that we start here. This piece of code does every single block in the whole world, and then picks one. I guarantee you, I will be able to tell you what the second one is, and the third one. Am I timing this? I bet you I'm not. Can't remember my own variable names. I didn't really go. Average dirty search time. So this is just the time taken to decide what to do the work on. This doesn't actually do the work. This is just going, let's do that one. If there's a game that you guys would like to watch me play badly, or let me know. And if you want to watch me play a game excellently, choose Doom. We don't have any specific plans for tonight. I think max is over in about 5 hours. We played Rocket League last night. And I enjoyed Rocket. I've never played it before. I've never played Rocket League before. Am I any good at it? Well, apparently I am the world's fucking prodigy at Rocket League. 12-0 in our first game. Oh yeah. I will never see a score like that ever again. Yeah, so we're spending 7+ milliseconds. So I will time these. I might not necessarily update them today. I know the technique I can use. Well, that means it takes 7 milliseconds just to decide which one to do. That limits us at most to 200 segments per second. Now, a lot of those segments won't generate anything necessarily. Anyway, I'm a little bit surprised that's only 5 milliseconds. I'll crank it up to do not use until 2020. Now, this massively increases the size of the loaded area by a stupid amount. That is the amount I would like to support. Now look how long population takes. How long does it take? Too long. Oh, and it counts wrong. 274,000, 250,000 segments in 23 seconds. I mean, honestly, that's pretty quick. But I want it to be a lot quicker. No, of course I do. Oh, that's why the game was slow. I had a search running. I wonder why they have objects. They shouldn't be. The segment's not rendering. Oh, there we go. Oh. Dirty graphics search now takes 60 milliseconds. So that technique will work there. So let's make a note. So people complain that 2020 is slow. I don't think they generally complain that the frame rate's slow. It's stuff like that. This system does not scale upwards. My draw distance, it brings all the boys to the yard. I want to do the landscape. Then I'm going to re-implement the detail renderer. So one of the complaints about fortresscraft is the fog. Because we play Unfortunate Spacemen, and it was good. And then Among Us comes out, and I'm like, but I've played this. Yeah, they had a big spike when they went free to play, but didn't have the YouTubers covering it. That's why we're in this state. Our government is just so half-assed about everything. Oh no, it's all terrible, right? We're definitely going to have to not have more than 6 people in one group. How about we have none in a group, and we'll come back to it, you know, when it's all done. We're not doing it like that. Okay, fine. So I understand that other countries have done better. I understand other countries have done worse. What annoys me about the UK's approach to this is we were one of the last countries to get hit, and we have done a very half-ass, and that just annoys the hell out of me. If we had just locked down immediately and gone, right, that's it, done. We're going to close everything down and we're going to do it properly, it would have been and gone. With this kind of vague approach, it just annoys me. Really just annoys me. I mean, as people said, oh no, the economy. The weirdest one is I have seen people saying, oh, the government are making it all up. It was like 4 months ago, the UK government decided to not include care home deaths in the COVID numbers to make them look extra small. Okay? They got caught doing it. They apologised, came up with some flim-flam excuse and moved on. Now, 3 months later, people are like, oh, the government are inflating the numbers in order to make it look worse. I'm like, so they've gone from making the numbers look better and getting caught doing it to now making the numbers look worse. It's like people just want to have a conspiracy theory regardless of, you know, facts. That one boggled my mind, like that our government was flipping from one end of the spectrum to the other within a couple of months. This is already like the 3rd iteration of this system. I am super happy with it, and I hope that it all goes fine. I mean, flabbergasted, I mean, I understand people don't trust what the government does. You know, you can't believe the government doing one thing and then believe they're doing the exact opposite thing. Like, it doesn't make any sense. Ah, shit. Bugger. Wait, maybe not. Oh, this is going to be tight. I'm not allowed to have more than 65,535 vertices in a single mesh. But that's okay, because I actually generate 1,000 meshes, each with 4,000 verts in. Might be alright. So if we don't need this saves 2 bytes per vert. That's actually quite a lot of memory I've just saved. Yay! The death rate's much lower than it was. That is an important thing to note. The problem is, really, that the government needed to do it properly in February, and they didn't. And now we are stuck with a situation that we are now trying to deal with that. And as the experts said, and quite rightly, and no fucking shit, Sherlock, people are tired of lockdowns and not being able to do stuff. Well, of course they are. But we've had 6 months of half-ass lockdown. But yeah, if we'd done it properly to begin with, it would have been done and gone, and we'd be fine. But because we had a half-ass lockdown for 6 months, nobody wants a half-ass lockdown, and it hasn't worked as well as it could have, and I just... 3 parts, my job. How many explosions and zombies can I put into my game? 1. 2, trigonometry. 3, statistical modelling. That is what I do for a living, okay? And I don't do it to a complicated degree. I do it to a fairly minor degree. Exponential ramps and exponential curves. If you have ever played any idle game ever, you will exactly understand exponential curves. And none of this has been a surprise. Because you're like, well, yeah, if you're playing venture capitalist or something, you realise that something can easily be 10 billion times the size of something else. And you realise that the money that you thought, what you thought was a lot of money 10 minutes of game ago, or infections, is now nothing. Because the exponential growth is just so big. And it's just boggles my mind that the government don't have anyone, apparently, or they're not listening to them or whatever, going, everything you've just said is not how it works. That's not how epidemiology works. It's not how exponential growth works. It's simple maths. But our approach from the UK seemed to be mostly, let's do what we can without doing too much and not hurt the economy too much. Bonkers. Just before the lockdown, they went, right, we're going to ban everyone going for the pubs from Saturday. We're not saying that you can't go to the pubs, but we're saying, you know, think about going to the pubs, but do try and support your local pub. And everyone's like, so do we go to the pubs or not? We don't know what we're supposed to do. What basically would happen is the government wanted to be able to say to you, don't go to the pub in such a way that if you didn't go to the pub and the pubs went bust, it was your fault, not the government's fault. Government said, oh, well, you could have gone to the pub, you could have supported it. Oh, it's not our fault all the pubs have gone bust. That's kind of the feeling that I've got from the government's approach. It is trying to get to the point where they can't be blamed for it all going wrong. Good luck with that one. That has been my feeling. And I don't want to be right on this. I think that's really shit. Keep using this phrase, you know, it's down to the common sense of the public. I don't know where you're from, whoever you are listening to this, my twaddle. But one thing the world these days, and perhaps always, is lacking in a large degree is common fucking sense. Certainly it hasn't been around much in my lifetime. I don't know why they suddenly thought people would have any. I mean, these are the government. These are people. These are supposed to be the people who, for a living, deal with other people's idiocy. I don't know why the government suddenly thought the entire country was going to be like, oh, well, although I can go out to the pub and get drunk and have... Let's just go back to the AIDS epidemic. You had two choices. You could potentially catch a disease with no cure that will definitely kill you, or wear a condom. People went with the disease option. A lot. In the very early 80s, late 70s, it was believed that you could only get AIDS through, say, doing gay stuff. The family-friendly stream, and I'm sure you all know exactly what I'm talking about. Well, maybe you don't. Live a little. That was the situation back then, is that people could potentially die or use a condom, and they didn't. And you still get the same... I mean, I don't know whether there was any my cock, my choice. I don't know what people would have said back then. And I think that proved that people don't have any common sense. I think everyone could agree that a vast majority of people have no concept of forethought. Yes, right now, you're quite right, Flabbergast. Because of the half-eight measures, the economy has been trashed and it hasn't really worked very well. I've been following the rolling numbers for several months now, and I saw it coming up a long time apparently before the government got around to reacting. Let's turn the detail back down. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm probably going to come to a couple of steps of quality down. I'm not looking at performance now. Now I'm looking at slowing the game down some more with some cool new features. The UK's approach was to shut the pubs at 10. If you are a European or an Australian, or you're from Asia, or you're from Russia, or you're from America, you will say, ah, yes, this makes sense, because people will be less drunk. This is my generic accent. They will not make silly decisions. Right, this is Britain we're talking now. Everyone will just get pissed 2 hours earlier. That is what will happen. To think that's not what the British public would do shows a very, very bad understanding of the British public. I am not personally one for drinking culture, but the UK has a very strong and problematic drinking culture. We genuinely do. How will people make the right decision? Because they fucking won't. They'll go out and they'll get pissed, or they'll get pissed before they go to the pub. A few years ago, I was in Holland. One of the British guys I went with, all went to beat up our guildmates. If you're ever in Holland, and especially Amsterdam, they don't like the English very much over there because we're fucking horrible. Mostly due to alcohol. And we were in just rural Holland, meeting up some people who played Warcraft, and he bought shots. And they took the shots, and he just slammed it back. Boom. And he went, another one. And they looked at him in horror. It was like, but you savour. You savour the smell. You sip it. You feel the burning across your tongue. Then you sip it some more, and you feel that burning sensation. You taste it. You enjoy it. But in England, it's like, bang, another shot. Let's get pissed as quickly as you can. I always said whenever I was in Holland, I was always a visitor, not a tourist. So all I need to do now, assuming I wrote my code correctly, I need to write 2 calls. Segment dropped, segment uploaded, and that's it. I've always been good at maths. I found all references, and it found all references to everything using the override. I wish I could search. Oh, wait, hold on. I can. Aha. Well, I don't believe you. Apparently, I never add this script to things. I merely get the script off things. Ah, create game object. I think I may have just found it. Get child object. There we go. This is the function I wanted. Low detail lands. Oh, please let this work first time. For the first time, I am going to be so pleased. Okay, all I need to do now is give the system a sensible shader. I'm hoping to do some improvements to the far field rendering system. Anyway, and this is called low detail landscape. It should be called far field, but that's naming conventions for you. Please let this work. My guess is it won't line up initially, but if this works, this should be pretty impressive. All I need is a material, and I'll just use a default for the moment, I guess. But I have used this technique before. It's not quite game ready. That's my plan, is to get this in, improve it, and then feed those improvements back into the other project. Look at me multitasking, like I'm a girl. I had a really nice test map. It was really good. Mars geographical data. Men can't multitask. Okay, well, speak for yourself. Other things that can't multitask. Unity. Oh, there it is. Oh shit, working. Okay, there's the landscape. Ignore the performance. That's because I just hammered to get it on done. Well, okay, no errors. That's good. It's not working. Oh, that's less good. I've generated the world in strips like that. And what will happen is as I pass in segment data into that, it will then regenerate that strip at an extremely low detail. Very, very, very low. But very big. Very, very, very big. I would actually expect you to have seen something by now. Not quite, this isn't working. What it's not doing is sending anything up. So that means that segment uploaded was wrong. So we've got stored, on purpose, massive low number, 8 kilometers downwards. I'm saying we take the offset of this segment's base Y from that one, and that gives us minus 112. I then say, if it's less than that, plus 50, so that's got minus 8,000 in it. That's got minus 115. I think, or height ln index equals, did I actually hard code that? Min height, yeah. I'm pleased that's, you know, somewhat working. So what I'm expecting to see down here are gaps as I regenerate the mesh. Essentially what I'm seeing is an optimization that I don't want to regenerate the surface height when I see anything so dark. This is why I want to get 3080, by the way. I'm debugging, I'm running multiple windows, I'm covering the screen in debug information, and I'm running it, I don't know what I'm doing, 20 frames a second. It's pretty horrible. I would like to be able to render much, much further. I would like to hint to the player there is more out there. I have developed a system to replace the current long detail renderer. When I wrote it, I made a mistake. The goal was to render a 1000 by 1000 meter area of landscape and to say, there we go, that is now your new draw distance. What I actually did is I rendered 1000 by 1000 segments. But it looks so good, I went, yeah, right, I'll do that then. And the weird thing is, it looks like it should be working. Oh no, I am actually getting updated strips. That one's been updated. Wait, yep, there we go. That's good. That's good. We're cooking with gas now. Just got to find them. Isn't there an orbit command in fortresscraft? There we go. And I can orbit at a bigger distance. Man, there was a key for this. Yes, absolutely. It is to do with the fog complaints. I mean, I've explained to people time and time and time again, if you turn the fog off, the fog isn't covering anything up. The fogger is covering up the fact there isn't anything out there. That's why the fog's there. The people go, oh, I can see more. I'm like, dude, you can see less than 16 meters more. You can see one segment. The fog is just there to cover that up. That's the only reason it exists. Has thoroughly annoyed me time and time again. I know it feels like it's claustrophobic. It's not. This system should hopefully allow me to do a gentler fog out to a much, much, much greater distance. If you turn the fog off, you just see nothing. I mean, the fog's pretty much off now. You can see there's nothing. That is the edge of the universe until it generates. Whereas the fog covers up the fact that there is nothing there. This is like when you're driving your car in fog. If you turn onto high beam, it feels like you can see less far. Trust me, I drive in Cornwall, we get fog every night at about 2 AM. You can see further with full beam on. They feel that there's stuff, that fog is there to cover stuff up. Fog in computer games is primarily there to cover up your draw distance. But the reason the fog exists in fortresscraft is to cover up the fact there isn't anything there. It's not there to add an oppressive atmosphere. I mean, it does, but that's not why it was there. That is the low detail landscape as is rendered. We drop a segment, we should at that point turn on the low detail renderer. So you can see stuff disappearing. So that is all the way up there. That is new segments appearing. Yeah, I'm not getting, this isn't getting cool. Why not? Why not? Can we not call this? Because I find that hard to believe. Or, hey, I found a bug. This would be one of those, how did this ever work type bugs. The issue I have will not be rendering this much landscape. The issue I have will be generating this much landscape. Right, that code isn't being called at all. Oh, no references found. Oh, okay, that'll be why. Drawback is with the system I'm developing, I can only draw what has been generated. The other game doesn't suffer from this because all the landscape is generated in advance, which is well and good, but the area that I am planning on rendering takes a dedicated computer doing nothing else about 70 hours right now. I haven't come across a solution for that. Potentially, I will write a system to only query load data. Wait, why shouldn't camobots draw power? I'm a bit confused by the way about the camobot thing. Like, they flip to hiding, we're not moving, and we're not attacking the player if we're in idle state. Which two states do you mean? After finding a PSB, it goes to sucking. Head towards the PSB. If we actually touch the PSB, we go into state sucking. A few lines below, well no, it returns up the function at that point. Head towards PSB. If state is sucking power return, we tend to head towards the different things. Yeah, you're saying there should have been a return here if we were sensible, or we shouldn't have been checking. I see what you mean. Because it will come out of there in state sucking, and then it will come down to here, and if the type it's looking forwards are not passable, it will then go into state hiding. Obviously, that isn't the case, is it? What you're saying is more or less, if mstate equals state.sucking, return. We found something to suck. Don't know whether your fix lines up with that one. I don't know how it works, but obviously it does. Obviously not as well as it should, but it definitely does. There we go. It is regenerating strips. Oh, let's just stare at this bit. Expect to see that shape that will move along. Guys, it's so close. It's nearly working. I knew it wouldn't work first time. That's not how code works. Code that works first time will invariably go weird and wrong in a weird and wrong way. We don't set the height on the way out. We only set the height on the way in, which can't make sense. In fact, we might not be setting the height the way in either. Wait, do I call segment completed? I do not. Should I be calling segment completed? I think I already know the answer to this one. Yes, pretty much when it comes off disk. Load it off disk, I guess, or Perlin gen finished. When do we want to do this? Actually, probably in both situations. What I will probably add is a function to generate a single cube. And once the world is generated, I just start to generate further and further and further. I might need to keep the player distracted for half an hour or so. So the initial fog, the sandstorm, might last half an hour. I need to work out at which point it is sensible for this. Set initial generation complete. How often do you do that? When it comes off the network, when it comes out the train gen. I found the function. I was turning them on, I was turning them off, but what I wasn't doing was updating their heights. It's gonna work now. I can feel it in my bones. Hey, there we go, that's what I wanted. There you go, those are the bits of the landscape it has data for. Anything that's low, it doesn't have any data for. Anything that's high, it has data for. And that's 8 kilometers away, so let's teleport. The rendering works, or at least nearly works. Now the problem will probably become apparent. I do plan to solve this. Under ideal circumstances, does this work? If so, then I shall continue down this route. Otherwise, I will go, well, that was a terrible idea. I suck. I'm just going to take up knitting. As ever, at the end of the stream, I will make a build. Patrons will get immediate access to the build. If you are dead keen to get your hands on it ASAP, patrons do get access. At some point I need to think about reducing the minimum access point, but patrons are literally what has made this game possible. If it wasn't for the patrons, I would not be able to afford to do this. I should have stopped development of fortresscraft 1 2 years before I actually did. I spent money that should have been spent on fortresscraft 2 development on fortresscraft 1. Thank you from the bottom of my heart to all of the patrons for their support. Genuinely, I mean, realistically, I'm still not making enough of the patrons to actually fund this game. Hence why I released Nomancer, which completely flopped. I wouldn't be doing this today if it wasn't for the patrons. So cheers, you're awesome. I love you. I have a whole bunch of errors. Not perfect. I think, though, it's writing the data out. So if I restart, I have a sneaky suspicion it might work. My goal is more or less 3 or 4 months of tech, about 4 months of art and gameplay, and then I will release it. Now that's the goal, is about 7 months out. Check out that bad boy. That's as far as I actually got in my last run. Now it might actually work a little bit better. Obviously the shader's wrong, but that is the low detail version of the landscape. I don't have any way of moving quickly, do I? Like really quickly, because that's the one thing that becomes interesting. Now there are rocket ships in this in the game and everything. I can't really make the most of them because once you go upwards, you realise the game's only about 300 meters across. Loaded area is really very small, so I can't take you up too far before you realise there is no landscape. Now there is. Now I can probably get you to I'll say a low orbit. I mean a very low orbit. I mean orbiting at like 1 kilometer, which is probably where the space station would be. And you could actually look down and you'd actually be able to see the landscape. And then you would see how pathetically tiny your surface base is. I'm now running to the point where I'm having to see the sparkles. That means I'm generating the world. So I'm now running to that point. You can also tell because the plants are new. These are new segments, never been seen before by anyone. I don't think I've ever been this far out. I'm now beyond the hive minds. Now the interesting thing is, this means that the surface map can become scrollable. I will be able to implement much faster movement. You know, high-speed trains or something along those lines. From getting from A to B. These weird jolts, by the way, there's a bug with the sand. Sand and water are now compressible. Oh yeah. I am hoping to have full fluid mechanics. It all works. Yeah, it doesn't have any rendering and I don't have any gameplay, but it does work. It means that if you have a block of water, it is squished, it is surrounded on all sides, and then you open up, that block of water can unpack to multiple blocks. This means I can have fluid, pressure, pumping, all sorts of stuff. Shouldn't really apply to cryo as such. I mean, it could do, but doesn't. It's primarily to allow pumping systems. It means if you pump water into a lake, the water flows up. Then you can enclose the lake and have a chimney and the water flows up the chimney. It's all working. What I don't have is any gameplay systems. The problem is with fortresscraft old, with a lot of stuff, I implemented things 2 or 3 years after release. And that doesn't necessarily mean I had a good idea what to do with it. Some stuff came much later. I don't think I have a shader graph. I must have a vertex colouring system. I must. I probably won't try and get this right for the very simple reason I'm not sticking with this version of Unity. Holy moly, I have a lot of shaders. Good God. Come on, I've got to have at least one shader that is vertex coloured. I want to write one. That feels very stupid. Although this is rendering badly, oddly, at the same time it is creating all of the data. The data's fine, it's just drawing the data that I'll say struggling with. I'm not struggling, I'm just a bit bemused why it is so wrong. I really wish I had some commands to like fly back to the base automatically. The orbit command, I'm sure I can set the orbit size. I don't remember how, I would have to look it up. If I teleport back home though, or near home, I've also had people request I take that message out going, I want to teleport. I'm like, right, but I consider it cheating. Well, you shouldn't have put it in then. Right, but I've put it in and I've told you it's a cheat. Yeah, but I want to do it. Right, but I consider it cheating. Are you listening to me? I actually have this shader. So let's, oh God, it's the old type of shader. Hate this. They initially tried to do this ultra shorthand shader setup. Now we use shader graph. I hate shader graph. I have spent 20 years learning shaders, and all of a sudden shader graph comes along and means it's dead easy. I can't see any code in this shader that relates to the vertex color. If I'm just going to Unity vertex color shader, there's got to be one. Particle shaders use it apparently. Let's try that one. Alpha blended. I might just nick this guy's shader for a second. Assuming it works, it's always quicker to just find someone who's done it before than to work it out from first principle myself. I'm not doing anything unusual or special. I just want to render the vertex colors and make sure I'm feeding it in correctly, because I might not be. I run on 3 32-inch screens and a number of smaller screens. I use mouse trails, and I usually do. And I know people going, oh, why do you need those? They're for two types of people. One of it is people who are visually impaired, which I'm not, and for people who have an awful lot of screen real estate. I have so much screen real estate. I have square meters of screen, and I still don't have enough. Just the worst thing ever. I do a lot of my work on my second screen, which I don't stream. I don't really have the option to stream multiple screens, like it would be too tiny to read. Well, that doesn't look broken, so that's a good start. I still have an ongoing task to optimize the scene. It's so slow to sometimes just to do anything. I've pushed Unity to its limits and beyond. Newer Unity should probably help. This is a 1440 75 hertz, and on my 1070, I just can't drive that at 75 frames a second. I'd like to, I can't. Well, I'm guessing the vertex lighting is working. That's nearly all specular there. 17, new survival surface. That should give us a colour of black. Aha! I think I spotted the issue. When I work, when I'm not chatting with you wonderful people, I usually have Netflix or YouTube or something on in the background. And if we do that at very high repetition. Right, next step, generate some data. I have another plan to potentially ship the game with the data for a known scene. Recommended world or something. So ship the game with the world that most players will use and say, please use this one, it has all the data. And if they don't use that one, they use a different one, I will have to try and come up with ways to generate the data much quicker, which is not a trivial task. But if I can render it, so currently the map cache just saved. The map cache just saved 0.12% of the map. So I'll rerun the game. It appears to be a bug on the first run, but it appears to be fixed on successive runs. We will see what constitutes 0.12% of the map. So that is 1,000th of the map. The other fun part, of course, is transmitting this over the network, because a lot of the way the network works is by not sending too much data to you. Yeah. There's your voxels. That's the loaded area. That's how far you see in fortresscraft. This is all of the rest of it. Now already, I think that looks probably better than the other one. There we go. Something, just roughly. It's too bright, it's too shiny. It probably wants to be at 50%. Not a terrible match. That will do for today anyway. The idea is that there is more landscape out there, and I will probably do a midfield render for the other area. How the terrain generation works with the seed. When you name your world, I turn that name into a number. That number is then the unique identifier for your world. How your world generates is based on that number. So if your world is called fish, is equivalent to 112, that means that it looks the same. Anyone who types in the name fish for their landscape will see landscape number 112. It's not brilliant and it's not perfect, but it's a good start. I do have a better technique, but I'm not going to bother rewriting it from 2020 back into here. You can get away with generating a kilometre of landscape to begin with, and then later on, by the time you get to spaceships, I've generated more. So this is partly to facilitate the potential Phoenix endgame, which is where you have a space station. You have a reason for having all that stuff up there, and you can go and do it. Oh, now I've hit the edge of the landscape I've ever generated. So that's not as fast as I would like. It's still pretty good. So this is what I refer to as the Superbuild 2 engine. Superbuild 3 engine can do about 90 meshes per second on this rig. Here I am managing close to 3 or 4 meshes per second. That's the other thing. I mean, in reality, you don't start the game and just start sprinting off. In reality, you start the game and you spend a lot of time building a factory. That gives the game a lot of time to generate stuff. There's no landscape between me and that because I've never been there. Nothing's ever generated it. So it's doing its best. It's creating it as quickly as it can. And once I'm there, that's fine. And then behind me, it will be dropping the high detail landscape and bringing in the low one. Now, from down here, it becomes a bit harder to tell. I mean, obviously, those aren't the same. Whether or not that matters, it's hard to say. There will be fog. It doesn't need to be as strong as fortresscraft fog by any means. I will put the fog so it blends between the low and the high. But yeah, don't forget, in fortresscraft, the first thing you do is you go downwards, really. You wander around your base, then you go downwards. I have no idea where these aren't here. But all those sparkles are generating, which I think I can speed up a lot. Oh wow, that looks cool. I would also like to do volumetrics, which is something I've been experimenting with. But how do we feel about that draw distance? And to a degree, the quality. I've just run out of RAM. How do I run out of RAM? That probably means I've got a leak. I've already got real-time reflections in fortresscraft Phoenix. I don't have any desire to add in RTX. If you add in RTX support, it can only be for cosmetics. Cannot have a gameplay feature that relies on RTX. Relied you on having to light up more than half the room using correct ray trace reflections by placing mirrors down, anything like that, okay? That cannot be done. Minimum spec for RTX is pretty much 2060s. That would limit my market. The problem is that not enough people have got RTX to make it a gameplay feature. I love the concept of ray tracing. It's totally pointless. Nothing that you can do in ray tracing you can't do with shaders 100 times quicker. But actually better? Yeah. That's the reason to buy a £700 video card. Yeah. The correct term is DXR. It's DirectX ray tracing support. Nothing to do with NVIDIA. NVIDIA just happened to be the first one to support it. This is by definition a very low poly. That's not great, but it doesn't actually offend me in any way. I don't think you understand how much landscape we've got. The other game I'm working on will get announced, so I can actually do some streams of that, because there's a lot of parallels between this and fortresscraft. It's not announced yet. That grey blob is my base, okay? That is the centre. There's a CPH there. That's an overmind. You know how far an overmind away is? They are far away. Most players keep their entire base within 300 metres of the base, even though I tell people to spread out. The overminds are 500 metres away. I am now just over 570 metres out from the base. Are we beginning to understand the scale and scope of what I am now capable of rendering? The issue is I can't get there. It is a fun issue to have. I mean, I'm struggling to outrun the generation, which is a good thing. You can see it's already generated all the way out to there. And I can teleport, but ideally generate contiguous data. Very curious to see what the landscape does. These need to move by. These were just here for some screenshots. I need to generate the landscape, and the only way I can generate the landscape right now is by standing here. You can see the area it is currently generating for me. It's tiny. It's relatively tiny. It's still huge. I mean, we're still talking about bare minimum something 16 times the size of that Foundry game we saw earlier, and I want to go a lot bigger. Part of the going bigger means that you'll have a base over there, a base over here, and you'll connect them up. So even though I've stopped moving, it's still generating. If I can find a tall enough mountain, I can see the base from here at low detail. There. Well, I can't because horizon box around the player. There we go, I've just moved it further away. You're still seeing forever. You're seeing all the way back to the beginning of the level. So I'm looking down along that axis there. That red blob there. It's probably that red blob here. Fortresscraft generation, it's not very good. There's not enough rolling hills. We've actually had a whole bunch of fixes to cryo. I'll say more predictable. Some people had a very easy cryo experience and some people had a nightmarish cryo experience. So I won't say the cryo is easier or harder now. I'll just say it's more reliable, it's more predictable. That means that we can tweak the behavior better. Uncompressed, if I were to store all of the world data, it comes to about 3 terabytes of data. It will use on disk if you map the whole area out and you do not have compression on. Enormous amount of data. Can't keep it in memory. I'm not even trying to. The issue is to generate the low detail version, I first have to generate the high detail version. And that's not something fortresscraft currently has support for. So the plan will be to request of the Perlin system, what is the height at this point? If it's already cached, it uses the cache. If it's not cached but it's loaded, it can use the segments. And if it's none of those, it will generate me the point. That should be in the realms of 4,096 times faster. That means a target layer group is not being used. Okay, so we have the ability to render 8 segments at once, and we're using none. Let me turn on the other landscape. Hammer home, because your sense of scale rapidly disappears when I'm doing this. That is the old low poly far field landscape renderer. I'm still potentially going to use that for medium range and this one for long range. How far away are we? Oh man. Probably this is too far. I don't necessarily need to do it this far. If you never fill this data, you never fill this data. I definitely need to speed up generation though. I think I only have one purl in at once. And I know I only have one disk at once. I might change the disk stuff. Instead of loading a segment, go load 16. It will start off 16 disk segments and grab 16 all at once. There's always 16 or up to. The idea isn't really for rendering. The idea is so I can support going up into space. I want to go to space, right? What are you talking about? Okay, if you play the game like that, don't even talk to me. Don't even go, oh, it doesn't keep up. Right, neither does Unreal. Next. View the camera at a sensible rate, there's no issue. In fact, if you flip the camera around, there's no issue. Yeah? There's no flick, there's no pop, nothing. When I do this, it breaks. I'm like, don't do that then. Doctor, it hurts when I do this. Stop doing that then. Is to allow the player to go very high. This gives me scope for stuff like Sky Islands. See, it's clearing up what you can't see to keep your frame rate up. No one would want to trade in rarest of pop-in for a low frame rate. That is the price you pay for a game that can render multiple kilometers of draw distance. I think that's a fair trade-in. Oh yeah, that's probably when I ran out of RAM earlier, wasn't it? We have made an assumption that the viz never completely breaks. We never recalculate all of the viz across a whole segment. What happened there is my PC just crashed. It says awaiting Steam because the game is running and it's asking Steam what language I'm running in so it can display the appropriate strings. One of the other interesting, annoying things about game dev, I have to run around for a bit. Generation changes are worse because you need to change it and then you need to spend a lot of time wandering around the world. Someone's got his render order wrong. And that someone is me. Any comments, by the way, on the new background? I don't know if you've noticed, but it also represents which biome you're in. So when I'm in the red biome, we've got a... It certainly feels more alien than it did. Good thing is, this long distance rendering is pretty damned cheap. It's not free, nothing ever is, but it's not bad. All my wandering around, I've barely touched the landscape. Trains is actually quite hard because the corners are so sharp. Linear, like passenger trains that linear, yeah. Starting from scratch would take me 5 years. Imagine that patch 27 is called fortresscraft 2 and I'm charging money for it. Think of it more like that. Doesn't the also build a support minecart rails, but it only goes 256 meters? Imagine that fortresscraft Phoenix is patch 27. It's the same game. You've been playing No Man's Sky. It's the Origins patch. The difference is they've got tens of millions in the bank and I don't. If I could put this stuff into fortresscraft and make money, I would put this stuff in fortresscraft. I can't. Fortresscraft generally never sold brilliantly, and I should have stopped delivering on it a long time ago. I just really love fortresscraft. I like being in the world, I like wandering around, I like everything about it. If I could give the game away for free, I would do so. If I could just have people play it and enjoy it, that would be fine. The reason this game exists are the patrons, and there's quite a lot of you on the stream today, so thank you patrons. You are what are supporting development of this game. I tried very hard to get Nomancer to sell. I did everything I could, didn't even wiggle the needle. The patron money might cover 2 or 3 days of work, or a day of work from 2 or 3 people. Quite small. Again, if we had 10 times the patronage, I'd start hiring people at that point, but this is the situation we're in. Hopefully some millionaire gets really into the game, goes, I really want a sequel. Here's some money. So you can see the map on the far right. I hope we are all very clear and understanding the scope of what I'm talking about for this renderer. If someone gives me $500,000 and said, what can you do with this? My answer would be 10 people for 1 year and no marketing and no testing. This is one of the reasons I've never set up a studio with Projector Games. If I set up a studio with 10 people, at that point, I need to make $1 million profit every single year, or I close the company down. At its absolute peak, fortresscraft on the Xbox made 1.4, 1.7 million, something like that. That's enough to fund a small studio for a year. I've had this chat with people before. People said, I want you to write this game for me. And I'm like, cool, yeah, I'll chat with you. I'll spec it out. And I'm like, right, you need this many people and this much time. No one ever believes you. They're like, oh no, it won't take that long. I'm like, dude, why did you ask me? The spikes will probably become like the moon and will move away from you. Todd wanted screenshots to look better, and one of those requirements was more stuff in the far field. The landscape system works. The immediate comment is, what about overhangs? Can you see any particular issues with overhangs? Massive blobs of skyline in the air, yes, but they're a problem anyway. Caves, overhangs, yeah, not so much. And see whether or not the cloud renderer I'm using is compatible. I don't know if it will be. It might require a newer version of Unity. The cloud system I've got makes me happy in my special place. Anyone like to hazard a guess what percentage of the landscape I have generated? 0.5%. 0.6%, that's almost exactly right. So I've now moved 8 kilometers from the CPH. I have to give the game full marks for coping. The game coped fine. It teleport me there, no problems. It's generated very quickly. Unity's shadow system can't cope. I should, though, be able to see the landscape still. There it is. The limit's the disk, by the way. I push in the segment data as soon as it's live off disk, and it generates just a hair later, so it's the loading. It's blinking because I've hit the numerical accuracy of 32-bit rendering, which happens at about 8 kilometers, give or take. The 2D stuff hasn't moved. It's just 3D. I've gone so far from the center of the universe. It's not Unity's rendering. My video card can't cope. Video cards can't do this sort of thing. They just simply do not have the numerical accuracy to render something this big. Yeah, I will probably limit the players to about 4 kilometers. But yeah, look how far away. So that's my base. That's the CPH. That's 6 kilometers. Actually, a little bit surprised I can't even see further than that. But I don't know why the ground is white. Let's hide it. There we go. That's where I teleported to. There's my first teleport. There's my second one. That's a kilometer. Yaya, can you link me a video card that supports 64-bit rendering? I'll give you a clue. No, you can't. There's no such thing. There is no API for 64-bit rendering. There is no video card that supports 64-bit rendering. There is nothing. You cannot do 64-bit rendering. I want it to look better as much as I can. I want it not to look like fortresscraft. A lot of it is about improving the flow for players, removing stuff players didn't like but were critical to the game. So stuff like people didn't like mission reports. Fine, mission reports are still there, but they have been radically changed. So gating mechanic. A lot more focus on rooms, a lot more focus on freight carts, lots of other plans for different robots. The world will be a lot more hostile to your base. Camobots are great, and it meant that you had to put laser and you had to protect it. I want more of that. I want more different types of mobs that attack your base in a non-destructive, in a non-fatal way. Don't make a mess of it. I want to move on to a lot better rendering tech, like newer, faster rendering tech, like even bigger worlds. This is kind of the first beginning of that. No, I think construct box are going to go. That's kind of my feeling, is a plus minus 4 kilometers is probably just fine. Look how quickly it generates that. I can't complain about that. I can make it so much faster. The goal was always that Arthur was your first robot and he was a good all-rounder, but wasn't good for certain situations. Here was that in multiplayer, the first person that logs on gets an Arthur. The next person, you have to construct a robot for him and you can't have another Arthur. So you end up with like a docking bay of different robots. And so if you're going into the toxic cavern, you get the breathing robot or something. I had a bunch of others, Solar, Sarah. I will also like to try and direct the player more, so they're a bit clearer as to where they're going and what they're doing. Just follow your missions. It's still shocking when people going, what do I do? Follow your missions. Oh, I don't read that. But you did ask on Discord. Just do your missions. If you follow the missions, and don't just ignore one because you don't want to do it, it will literally guide you from your first machine until firing the railgun. What's from the 13-page inbuilt help guide completing the entire base game and both DLCs? That even plus minus 4 kilometers is still exhibiting shadow issues. Yes, the first 20 minutes are the most important. I am planning on spending at least a month before release on the first 20 minutes of the game. In fact, we have. Let me create a new world in fortresscraft Phoenix. Yeah, Zebra. And here we are, we're in our first world. Now, I would hope the player isn't idiotic enough to sprint off into the fog, but don't worry, I won't let them. At this point, the game is desperately generating the terrain. That's why I've covered it up. This is the loading screen. So out there, you can see it's generating stuff. But that's not your concern. Your concern is to head into the base, doors open. So we'll actually bring online the base this one. I will then lock the player in the base. The player will be stuck in here. This is the 1 kilometer map. Okay, this is the small map. This is generating as quickly as my CPU can generate. I expect there will be an option saying, do you wish to skip the tutorial? Brackets, if you do, don't come and talk to me on Discord. It's generating a little world there. I might even hide a UI element somewhere on the map that, if you skip the tutorial, changes. Give me a screenshot saying, I go, you do the tutorial. I did. No, you didn't. Tempted. The thing is, if you're a new player, I want to lock you in here, let's say for 10 minutes. Because out there, I'm busy. I am very busy generating the landscape. This takes about half an hour. It's generating a sphere. So it doesn't know there's no landscape above me. It doesn't know there's no landscape underneath me. So it has to generate everything. So the important thing is about the map, by the way, is it's not how long the map takes. It doesn't really matter. Because if I run out somewhere, it will generate that map in advance. So you'll notice that it's only showing hive minds where the map's generated, because I don't know if there's any hive minds there. Nobody knows. The game hasn't generated them yet. But the overminds are in a fixed preset position, so I can assume they are there. This map is at 1 meter accuracy. That's the whole world at 1 meter, which is pretty amazing. In theory, I can show you the low detail map here and let you scroll there. I can't generate the high detail map. It's just too big. About a gigabyte. So, no. Yeah, I'm generating 10 segments a second. That's really the issue, is that gen last. Player will be sent in here, the door will lock, they will then be sent to the mission board. The lab will be locked, because there's no reason to do lab stuff. The upgrade system will be locked. Advanced research will be locked. And the medbay will be locked. I really like the shiny metals we can have now. But now I've been in the base for a while, I come out, I can pretty much see data as far as I can see. The base is a fortresscraft 2 thing, yes. Right, we're going to get a level called Frozen Bot. The 2 scales that are very, very easy is a pixel per segment. So I can move around, by the way. I might actually keep you in there a bit longer, but you'll notice if I go in there, go, way, okay, cool. Run down here as quickly as I can. I'm hoping the player will actually stop and read these are all full of hints for playing the game, or they will be. Run in, bang. I might even just say you can't leave until the storm dissipates. And the storm dissipates when you create enough map. You can't leave yet, it's not safe. So now if I go, oh, let's have a look at the outside. It still sparkles, it's still generating. Let's just leave it for, say, a minute or so. I'll show you the rooms a little bit slower. All your suit upgrades will take place in here. Arthur, what are you doing? There's the power for your base. This is the easy research stuff. You start off with a number of crappy machines. There is almost no non-time-based crafting. Everything you craft will take time. I will then explain to the player. Maybe we'll have something on the roof that moves around and explains to you like a personality core. This will be where the lab will go, or at least where you access the lab. The lab itself might be somewhere else. Labs work differently because you now work for a company, and this is the back end of the smelter. This is how long the game will take to explain to you. At that point, we've generated that much. You come up, that's as far as it's generated. See, that's as far as it's generated. This is your base. This is where you come back to. This is the hub of your base. This is the bit the company gives you for free. It's not done, by the way, I'd like to point that out. This is just jammed together. At all points, you've got access to the launch pad. So, you know, you can build your part of the base wherever. It doesn't need to connect back. You're given a very, very, very basic startup of stuff. If you don't know where you got that from, Jagger, it's right there. Whether or not I have surface attacks, I don't know. What are we going to defend instead? We have to defend something. This game is a hybrid tower defense game. That's the power for your base. That gives you an unlimited but small amount of power. This game is like a House of Cards, but a stable one. I might put solar panels on. Obviously, I will put a ceiling on top, and you also won't be able to run through the walls. It means when you're inside, it is a fixed lighting setup. So I can control the lights here and make it look quite nice. Outside, I'm still at the whim of the player doing silly stuff. Oh no, it is generating. Let's see. Let's check. 0.05%. Fluid is a complex and difficult question, and it is very much TBD. I would like the ability to have pressurized fluid, very much like Terraria or Dwarf Fortress, ironically. Don't know if anyone's ever done that in 3D. Satisfactory's got, I don't think it's got fluids in any way. Canisters and pipes and things, but that's about it. It's got fluid in the same way that Factorio's got fluid, or Mindustry. Basically, it doesn't. This is also some of my days, by the way. It's just create a world, see how long it takes, see what I can do. So this is the CPH doing this. Generate stuff here, and then it just starts to page in the whole world. One by one by one by one by one. I am also planning on not having any DLC for this game, at least not in the same way. I'm also not going to be putting in such heavy sales. Much rather I sold 1/10 of the copies at 10 times the price. Sales have hurt my soul on this game. I mean, I think the game sold for $3 ago. People still slag it off. It's just me. I need to pick my battles quite carefully. From a fresh run, if I sprint outside now, let's start all lit up, and as the sun comes up, the lights go out. See, that looks really good there. That looks great. Not perfect, but it looks good, and I like that. I realise this game is not to everybody's taste, and I realise I like brightly saturated games, but at times it does look so good. There you go, there's the Sky Island screwing up. The minimum PC spec should not be significantly higher than fortresscraft. As ever, fortresscraft will do its best to use up all of your CPU. I'll try my best. I have to say, this new rendering technique does make me want to explore a lot. The more patronage I have, the longer I can develop fortresscraft for. I would like to develop fortresscraft for 10 years. I would happily do that. At that point, the HDRP in Unity 2020 becomes the lowest level of quality in 2030. I would love to be able to ship fortresscraft. I would love to be able to work on it full time, and I just want to keep working on it. If you like fortresscraft, you definitely want more fortresscraft. The game is not subscription based. It has no loot boxes. It has no way for you to give me more money, unlike, you know, a lot of other games out there. If you bought the game in a sale for $3 and then you bought the expansion packs for $3 each, you want to be able to support the game. That's how you do it. So if you're on Discord, I've got the announcements channel. If it annoys you, mute the channel. If you want to hear more about stuff happening, hook it up. I would much rather someone who can afford it do it than someone who can't. Like that, I never want anyone to stretch themselves thin just to help fortresscraft out. Like, I have done almost everything myself. I've had some wonderful community members help out. I haven't had any other paid programmers on this project for many years, as there's just not enough money. Something I have thought about. Yes, I could do GPU generation of the world. It's very difficult for me to pick up a task that takes 2 months to complete because everything else gets put on hold. Farm it off to a junior, rewrite the existing Perlin gen using a compute shader. Yes. I can't optimize my game by doing more. I'm using all the threads. Fortresscraft eats CPU cycles and shits out voxels. I had a system that took 300 milliseconds. I put it on the GPU and it took 0.03 milliseconds. That's quite hard though. The reason that this is a sequel and not an expansion is I need the money. Fortresscraft lost money for a long time. Not have the money to continue on. I know it's difficult to hear, but it never sold very well. Very odd bit of dissonance. It didn't sell very well, and at the same time, at times, was the 500th best-selling game on Steam. That gives you everything you need to know about the state of the Steam gaming. Like, it's bad. Why didn't it sell very well? I don't know. And it didn't have any marketing money. I don't have a guy who sits there and posts videos and screenshots continually on Reddit and asks people what they think. See, that's where it's actually working quite well. I can see a long way. To generate the whole area is about 60 or 70 hours right now. Give me a separate tool to generate it. The server can do it easily. The server doesn't care. It's got loads of free CPU time because it doesn't need to render. See, that doesn't look too bad. I mean, it needs tidying up, but the near field looks good, the midfield looks good, the far distance looks good, and then the spikes in the distance look awesome. I reckon this is about as far as I can get away with rendering without having 5 coordinate reshifting. Yeah, this is beginning to get a bit wobbly, and I'm not stopping the player going further, because I'll try and build the landscape at about an 8-kilometer size, about 8,000 blocks. So if I go AFK, does it fly home? Slowly. Oh, it flies home quickly. What a shame. But 4 kilometers is about the bit where video cards start to give up. Fundamental issue with the way rendering works. You can't render anything more than about 16 kilometers. You can, but with accuracy. So it starts to jiggle and wibble. There are tricks to get around it. So I just teleport there again. And see where see it has generated the landscape, it has updated it. So most of that's on disk now, so it can come in much quicker. Pre-generated stuff is 100 times faster than generating it. A pre-generator for servers you don't need. See, now it's generated a lot of that territory. It's actually doing pretty well. I do already have a technique, so you won't see the pop-in so much. The point here is that I can actually let you travel very quickly. Game by itself does pre-generate the middle part of it. Very automatic thing. I do stream every night. If you want to come and keep me company, every night from 9 PM until midnight GMT or BST, I stream. We play games. We play all sorts of games. We play a wide variety of games. I have been told I have a particularly unique view on games, and I often like to chat about games from a very technical standpoint. I tend to point out the bits that I feel could have been done better. SnowRunner is amazing in so many ways. But not their DLC policy. Deposit set. It's not broken. We're just really high. We are 100 or so meters in the air. So it's actually doing alright. We're so far up, there's no detail to see. You mean the green, that's the horizon. This is how I assemble what you see here. I think it's because I left the base via the teleport command. I don't think it's spotted I'd left the base. This is what happens when you've been travelling all the way across. I want to try and stop happening. Basically games that interest me, except when sometimes Schalke talks me into playing these horrible time travelling games. Incidentally, I am actually on purpose generating more and more data here. If you look at just the blocks, see how little you would actually be seeing compared to what you can see. Now, I do want to make the blocks look better, the non-blocks. And I have some ideas on that. Thought about getting into games, by the way. Be aware that a lot of games is doing this. You're just doing something over and over and over and over again. So their landscape's too shiny. I don't know, what do you guys think? Is it important to be able to draw large distances? Or should I just try and encourage the player to go under the ground a lot more? I'm generating data. This is how I expect it to look. Kind of like this. We're moving very quickly, by the way. We're 70 or 80 miles an hour here. There's a tunnel nuker. Look, just there. So if you see sparkles, that's generation. This is just loading and mesh. If the player is immediately directed to go underground, I could move copper underground. There's no reason it has to be on the surface. Giving this all time to generate. The way the terrain looks doesn't offend me. My only offended bit is there isn't enough of it. But you can see the stripe where it has generated. You've already seen how quickly I can teleport to places. Most of it is just about having that place. Oh yeah, it wouldn't be far. I encourage players to explore downwards straight away rather than across. Remember, when you go downwards, it's still generating. It never stops generating. I just need to persuade the player not to go exploring. That means I should change it from begin processing of surface metals to begin processing of shallow metals. Why is it so shiny? It's so shiny. That's better. The different block colours are the different biomes. Let me list the biomes for you. Green, yellow, blue, cyan, red. I reckon if I shrink down the landscape system to 1/4, that gives me a 4-kilometre distance. The landscape you're seeing will be an awful lot more detailed. You won't be able to see as far, but you'll still be able to see it a long way. You can teleport very quickly. I've got a system to be able to show stuff at a distance. I should take advantage of that. Certain resources already do only spawn in certain biomes. You guys have played this, right? Yeah, different ores would be terrible and wouldn't make any sense at all. There aren't enough ores. There's no underground biomes. But they're underground biomes, not surface biomes. The surface biomes can't have different ores. That wouldn't make any sense. And I don't have enough ores. There are different plants in each area, but right now, all the plants are the same. I put a request out many moons ago for what could the plants do differently, and I got no responses of any use whatsoever. So you have healing for plants, and that's it. More use of plants, or get rid of plants. I like the hydroponics, I really did. If you play Terraria, all of those potions, 90% of which were just such a pain in the arse. It doesn't, weren't worth it. There were so many. And you're like, health potion, mana regen potion, health regen potion, done. You wouldn't go, you know what, I'm really going to make a potion to take less fall damage. You just wouldn't do it. 3 potions we cared about, a lot more we didn't. Terraria never did a good enough job of forcing you to have those potions. My point with the plants were, once you say potions and then dies, A, that's what every other game does, and B, meh. Not very exciting or interesting. I am very impressed the game can keep up with that at all. It's not really designed for it, and I would like to put more work into pulling data in more rapidly, like making sure the queue is very wide, not very deep. There are per biome resources, they're just not very interesting yet. From the Arcus or DJ, I will respond to both of those. I respond to quite a lot of things. I've not really played Factorio. I completed it once and went, eh. And right now at this speed, with it already generated, it is keeping up quite well, and that's really good. I'm sorry it doesn't float over the terrain cleverly. That is one of the pledges. People with access to Phoenix immediately get access after each stream. I'm sorry I didn't get to do the clouds. Hopefully it makes you go, ooh. Because people are asking what's going to be different about fortresscraft, and I will be very honest with you, not a lot. What is different is not really as important as what is better. I found some iron. I really like multi-block machines in fortresscraft. So I am very happy with how these look. One of the things I didn't like about fortresscraft was the fact you didn't get to see any of the cool multi-block machines for quite a while. Many less UI. English is difficult. You will not build a drill head, you will build a drill head. A drill head is controlled by a drill motor. Neat, huh? And that looks to... I've checked, there is no bug with the nighttime being longer than the daytime. It just feels like it. We want more multi-part machines, like so. Like there's a bit missing. Ah, you can tell there's a bit missing because the head hasn't aligned. These are now 3-part machines. So you build an ore extractor. It has a head, power. Let's just quickly sort out power. Because the multi-block machines were cool. And there we go. Yes, it's the same thing. The head will break and then you'll just put a new head on it. Notice that this one is picking up nickel, now it's picking up copper. That's in. This is kind of my visual target for the machines in fortresscraft. I want all the machines to look better. A lot of the machines are very old. This one is 6 or 7 years old and we want to redo it. This means you don't need a UI. Same thing with these ones. You don't put a laser into it with this. You will put a lens in front of it. I can't do UI. None of you think I can do UI. Everybody hates UI. UI is a nightmare. UI doesn't work in VR either. Ooh. The less UI I have in the game, the better. So you can see here the different tiers. You've got different tiers for the motors, but we don't have any graphics for those yet. Watch what happens when I put the last bit on. Click, pop, pop. No. Well, 50-50 chance there, I guess. Now connected and it's headed downwards. You can see it's pulling coal out. Need more space to set up a mine? Yeah, 2 more blocks. Oh no, what are we going to do? So much for watching. I will try and do more of these. Please, if you can, become a patron. Want to watch me fail at computer games? I stream every night with a bunch of wonderful people. We stream every night from 9 o'clock. Ring that bell. Ask me stupid questions. If you want announcements, make sure you have notifications on the announcements channel in Discord. Thank you so much, guys. You have been wonderful and you have made my day fly past, and it has been super duper efficient. And I hope wherever you are in the world is not too terrible right now.